Welcome to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. I feature Olympians, CEOs, disruptors, authors, professional athletes, and the best of the best, where they share their stories of resilience with my lens on leadership and culture. Let's get started. Greetings and welcome to this episode of Heartbeat for Hire. I am in this amazing tidal wave of good right now, and my next guest is right at the peak of that wave with me. Please welcome Randy Molland to the show. He is the founder of Go Big to Give Big, the singular movement that empowers visionary entrepreneurs to expand their impact and income through strategic philanthropy. A seasoned business leader, real estate investor, and endurance athlete, Randy is no stranger to disrupting the status quo in order to achieve new levels of success. Throughout his personal and professional endeavors, Randy has seen one common truth arise among those who build businesses and live their desires. When people play all out, they are able to go bigger and ultimately give bigger. Today, Randy helps entrepreneurs achieve this mission of serving first through the Go Big to Give Big community podcast and fractional chief giving officer services. Randy, welcome to the show. So happy you're here.
I'm so fired up for this. I'm ready to go.
Good. Okay, so I always kick off every one of these episodes with the same question. And you already told me this answer, which is so much why I wanted you on the show. So can you share a little bit about your story?
Yeah, absolutely. So a quick background on what got me into philanthropy and where I am is the easiest way to do it is I was an electrician by trade and had some success in it and was doing fairly well in life and had a mentor take me under his wings. And he said, Randy, if you can buy a house as quick as you can, you'll set yourself up for the future. So that's what I did. At 25, I bought my first house. And he looked at me and he said, the same mentor said, man, if in 25 years, when this thing's paid off and you're 50 years old, you're going to be mortgage free and living the dream. And I was like, sweet, let's pay this thing off in 25 years and grind away. And unfortunately, 2 weeks after he said those exact words to me, he passed away in a job site accident and didn't survive. And so at 25 years old, I just watched my best friend at 42 pass away and looked back the statement that he said that when you're 50, you'll be able to live your dream life. And I just thought, well, you didn't get to live yours. So in that moment, I had a pretty gut-wrenching decision to say, I don't want to just work for 25 years. I want to retire by the time I'm 30. So I Googled how to make a ton of money and never work again. I found real estate investing. And so I went on to go build a real estate investment company with the principles and the morals that I just wanted to get absolutely rich and retire at 30. And I didn't deal with the trauma and pain of losing my friend. And I worked myself into a non-epileptic seizure by the time I was 28. And so at 28, I had my second realization that maybe working and grinding super hard and not dealing with your trauma and pain is not the right way to do life. And so I kind of just looked at the world or God or whatever you want to say and said, give me a sign, like what's next here? Because clearly what I'm doing isn't working. And that's when I heard the quote that said, if you want to make $1 million a year, build a business that does 2 million, give $1 million away, and you'll be the happiest millionaire on the planet. And I'm a pretty simple-minded human, and it didn't take much for me to figure out that the mission was about making $2 million for the world, giving $1 million to charities or supporting someone in need, and then I get $1 million to spend on whatever I want. And it didn't matter if I spent it on boats or Ferraris or houses. It was my $1 million because I earned the 2 million for the world that gave $1 million away. And so that was the principle of how I got started. And then I just implemented that through my real estate portfolio. We started donating $10 per door per month. So our 10plex donated $100 a month and our 20plex donated $200 a month and so on, and started teaching and training more and more people how to do that and building impact into everybody else's businesses. And that led me to where I am today, where I have a community of the most philanthropic group of entrepreneurs on the planet. And I run a consulting company called Give Big Strategies, where we're basically making everyone's impact come true without having to do any of the work. They hire us to come in and we build the whole giving initiative for their organization and business and provide the services for them. So that's the quick cliff notes on my story.
There's so much in that story that I love, and I'm so sorry for the loss of your friend, but what a lesson and what a way to redirect your purpose. From the burnout piece, which I think a lot of 20-somethings experience hustle culture. I think a lot of the 50-somethings are still stuck in hustle culture.
Yeah.
But you got the wake-up call to stop and pivot. So I want to talk a little bit about you. are a chief giving officer. And can you share what that is and why this is such a critical strategy for companies to be thinking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason why it came to be was that along my journey, when I started doing a lot of the consulting for companies, I ran a mastermind and I put 50 people together that were all purpose-driven entrepreneurs. They all paid me to be a part of my mastermind. I worked with them one-on-one to teach them the giving initiatives, and I worked with them for 6 months. So from January to June, I worked with them. And in June, we ran a live event. And at that live event, I stood on stage for the 50 people that I had just supported throughout the past 6 months. And I said, so who here has officially added a giving initiative to their business? And 10% of the people raised their hands. So 5 out of 50 people. And I was like, wow, that hurts. Like you guys paid me and I feel like I didn't deliver. And I put so much time in this and nothing happened. So then I asked the next question, which was the game changer for me, where I said, so who here has giving or impact as a top 3 core value of their business or life? And 100% of the people raised their hand. And that's when I realized that there was a huge gap between what the impact people wanted to make and their ability to execute on it. And so I started doing a bunch of research and talking to people, and it is very clear that people want to do good. They want to make impact. But when we can't even pick a Netflix series, let alone trying to choose a charity,
Right.
you know, it becomes this game of when there's too much decision, it becomes indecision. And then we started working through the logistics, and, you know, everyone starts trying to complicate it where they say, yeah, I want to donate $100, but then from there, I want to donate $1 million. Okay, well, how do I donate $1 million? Well, you didn't start at the 100. And so people overcomplicate it. And when they overcomplicate it, then the same thing happens. When there's indecision, there's no decision. And then as well as the messaging and marketing, right? So many people don't know how to message it. They feel like a used car salesman talking about it. There's some bad stigmas around companies that have created brands around the wrong principles and initiatives. So then I just realized that I was never going to teach companies how to actually do this because there's so much intricacies there. And when they're running their businesses, there's no way they're going to be able to figure it out. So that's when I realized, well, those same companies will go hire a CFO, like a fractional chief financial officer. They'll hire a fractional COO for their operations, and they'll hire some sort of marketing organization to take care of their marketing. I thought maybe they'll hire me to be a fractional CGO and manage all their impact and giving initiatives for their business. So that's where fractional CGO is birthed. And I like to say that I'm the OG fractional chief giving officer. I haven't heard anybody else use that terminology before. And that's really what scaled to where we are now. And along the way, I just realized there's so many incredible humans that we could help that wanted to be around similar like-minded people. So we also created a really cool community around it. So when you come in, you can get the consultations and when you get it into your business, but then you also get plugged into people that think the same as you. Because I know you've been a part of a lot of these groups. Most of the times you go into these masterminds or groups, and all anyone wants to talk about is the 7-figure money they're making, but nobody talks about the impact. Nobody actually is looking for friends. Nobody's looking for people they can relate to. And you and I were just on a call the other day that it was just a bunch of impact-driven entrepreneurs, and it was the best call I've ever had. Those are the conversations I love having.
Yeah, me too. And can you talk a little bit about why philanthropy needs to be a part of core values in a company? I
Yeah.
mean, there are a lot of companies that would argue it doesn't, but what have
Yeah.
you seen for the companies that do take it seriously, and what has their impact been, and how is their bottom line affected?
Yeah, 2 things. One, emotionally, I mean, what it did for me, pulling me out of my depression, pulling me out of my burnout phase. I haven't been burnt out a day since. I wake up at 4 in the morning and I basically work until 7 or 8 o'clock at night because there's purpose behind it.
Mhm.
So statistically, when you do something for somebody else, you get a better dopamine rush than you do for yourself. So when you try and get yourself rich, it doesn't work very well. But when you try and serve children and put them through sports, and the byproduct is that you get rich, it's a whole different philosophy. But on the other side is just the way the world's going. So statistically, it says that 89% of consumers are more likely to work with a brand that has a giving initiative versus one that doesn't. And that's backed up by another study that said 95% of millennial females trust a brand more if they had a giving initiative, and they're 80% more likely to remember the name of the company, and they're 4.5 times more likely to recommend them. So when we start seeing statistics that are in the 80 to 95% range consistently,
Yeah.
If it was one statistic, I wouldn't believe it. But it's different studies from different colleges, from different organizations, from different censuses that
Yeah.
all were in the 80 to 90% range.
I think you hit on something really, really
Yeah, yeah.
important here. And there's never been a bigger time or a better time for people to vote with their dollars. And I think with this current young generation that is entering the workforce, they are so aware of giving, they want to give their money, meaning buy goods, buy
Yeah.
products, support companies that are doing mission-driven, good things. And
Yeah.
I think so often people get so focused on profit, they step away from their original goals. So I love the CGO role of saying, okay, well, you started here. When was the last time you were there? So let's figure out a way to get you back to that heart-centered
Right.
place. But I think those stats are staggering. That's amazing.
Yeah. And when you start piling them on to where we're going in the world, it's going to be a phase. I don't know if it's 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years from now, where we're going to look back and say, wow, I can't believe we were just greedy capitalists and built businesses just for our own
Yeah.
greed.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we're going to see that philanthropy and capitalism are going to get married. And we're going to start seeing that, the consumers are only spending their dollars on companies that have impact initiatives. So why are you so greedy? Why do you need to make $100 million for your company? Why can't you make 80 million and
Yeah.
give 20 million away, but actually show the work that you're doing with it? That's a lot of the problem now. Is these companies make the millions, and then once they sell, they donate the 20 million, but nobody actually gets to see it or do it.
That's
When we
right.
start doing it from the beginning of our business and add it into an initiative as we grow, people got to be a part of it. They got to be a part of your journey. They get to see what you're supporting, how you're supporting it. You get to light up. Lindsay, it's 100% of the time when I ask someone to talk about their charity that they'd want to choose from, it creates a smile instantly.
Yeah.
They share a story about an impact. They share something. And there's no better way than to relate to your buyers. There's no better way to relate to your customers, your friends, your colleagues, your employees than sharing about some of this impact that you want to make in the world.
Well, I think you hit on something, and that is people really do crave purpose with their work. And so often in the corporate world, purpose can be hard to find. And, you're in your job, you're not necessarily like thinking you're making a big impact on the world. But when you look at companies like Tom's, for example, that
Yeah.
shoes, people in, third world countries, or the companies that have the socks, and for every pair you buy, they give a pair. Those brands are so well known in our minds, and we talk about them like very matter of factly. Why wouldn't a company want to be associated with that kind of giving? And you give so much back to your own people when you have those kinds of initiatives in place. And just speaking from personal experience, every time in any role that I had where we had an opportunity to go build a house, or go sort a food pantry, or do something for little kids, it was a moment of connection. It was a moment of team building. It was camaraderie. And we all walked out of there feeling our hearts 3 sizes bigger than when we went in. So there's so much goodness to be had that creates momentum in your day-to-day work. So yeah, I totally agree with all that.
I run a podcast called the Go Big to Give Big podcast. And one of the questions we ask is brag on yourself for a minute, share about a moment of giving that still gives you goosebumps when you think
Yeah.
about it. And we've had, some of the top speakers come in, the David Meltzers and the Tim Stories and the Brandon Turners, and every single one of them makes millions and millions of dollars. And not one of them has said, oh, it's the $1 million check that I wrote to this organization. Tim's story talked about how he bought glasses for some kid, and that was his favorite moment of giving that gives him goosebumps. And he got giddy and excited and lit up. And it was $100 pair of glasses that he bought for this kid. So it's just really cool to normalize the conversation, to make it relatable.
Attention, visionary leaders. Are you ready to elevate your leadership style and create an exceptional workplace that stands out from the crowd? I'm here to introduce you to a game-changing resource that will transform the way you lead and shape your company culture. It's time to embrace the power of top-down culture. This practical guide empowers your leadership for lasting success, helping you create a workplace where everyone thrives. Get top-down culture today, and let's reshape the future of leadership together.
I mean, it also has a lot of benefits on the back end when we start talking about the giving initiatives to the clients we're working with. A good example, I literally just got off a sales call with a guy, and I told him what we do, and he said, "Oh, it seems like a pretty steep investment to have you guys come in." And I said, "Absolutely." Did some value add for him. But then I said, one of the things I forgot to tell you is that for every 5 clients we work with, we help one nonprofit for free. And that's because a lot of nonprofits can't afford to hire a consultant and they're struggling. So by working with us, not only are you investing in building your philanthropy for your business, but you're also getting to go help other nonprofits along the way. And his face just like dropped. And he was just like, because you said that, I want to hire you guys because I just want to make the impact. He said the price doesn't matter when I saw the impact on the other end. And I was like, dude, you just sold yourself. Now what are you going to do when you go start talking to your clients and talk about your giving initiative? And he was like, I'm in. Like, let's do this. And it's just so crazy to me that by just sharing about the impact that I do, this guy went from being, that seems like a pretty steep investment to being like, I'm in, let's do this. Like, I just want to be a part of your mission.
Well, and think about it from a sales perspective. I mean, I was in sales my entire career. If I could say, oh, hey, by the way, I just want to tell you about this amazing thing that my company's doing right now. It's not really related to this, but it really moved me, and I thought it might move you too. Think of how you can move the needle with that kind of action. It's so, so powerful. I love that. That's such a great story. Thank you for sharing that. So, one of the questions I love to ask is, what inspires you?
What inspires me right now is changing the way that capitalism is viewed. And so I have this mission that right now we talk about capitalism in a political space that is bad, right? Oh, you're a greedy capitalist, or you run businesses and you're a tyrant because you don't do any good for the world. I'm just fascinated and inspired by the fact of how do we change that conversation? That's the whole overarching thing of what I want to do. The giving initiatives are great and the Go Big to Giving movement is amazing and I'm very passionate about it. But to give a different answer than I typically give to change up the conversation a bit is this level of capitalism being a dirty word to making it a great word, where it's like, oh, wow, you're a capitalist. What kind of impact do you make? How are you helping? And just really changing the narrative around it. That's what's inspiring me and got a lot of passion for me right now is teaching, training, and educating on how we can actually change that conversation.
Well, you hit on something that I really think is important. And I think we're in this moment where our government can only do so much.
Yeah.
Business has a lot more power and a lot more ability to bob and weave through the system. We can get a lot more creative. We have more capital and we have a lot less hoops to jump through. And so when you think of capitalism that way and how we can create good, I mean, you and I are of the same group of awesome people that are really trying to make a difference and change the world. When we put our heads together, it's really staggering what we can do. So
Absolutely.
yes, I love that. So for people that want to get involved with Go Big to Give Big, what do they do?
Yeah. The simplest way is head over to GoBigToGiveBig.com. That's obviously the easiest way to start seeing the mission, or if they're more specifically looking for our consulting services, it's GiveBigStrategies.com. But I just following Randy Molland on social media, we're starting to talk a lot more about the actual impact that we can make. That's what I wanted to just be clear on is like, it's cool that you want to work for a company or get involved in our communities. Absolutely would love that. We have giving initiatives for everything we do. So by joining up for our community or hiring us, we do great things and make massive impact. But I just want people to really start seeing that conversation done differently. And so I'm going to encourage people to just go follow at Randy Molland. Because that's just my space right now where I'm kind of having like a little playground, exposing a lot of stuff, sharing different insights, talking about different initiatives, different ways that you can add giving initiatives. For example, if you run a podcast, how do you go and actually use your podcast for good? Good. Well, you donate $10 for every 5-star review that you get, and you go start talking to all your audience saying, hey, for every 5-star review I get, I donate $10 to this charity. So for doing an act of service that costs you nothing and takes you a minute, you can have an impact on this charity.
Yeah.
And so I post a lot of that kind of stuff out there, trying to just give as much value as I can to inspire people that this is the new way of life and what we can do with it.
Oh, you're great like that. You always challenged me. I did something with a workshop. I love doing it. It felt great. So what advice do you give for people that are maybe entrepreneurs starting out, who know they want this to be part of their philosophy? Maybe they don't have a ton of capital yet. How do they start?
Yeah, the law of reciprocity says that when you give something, you get something back, right? And so I believe the law of reciprocity in the way that we speak about it is the law of reciprocity doesn't care how much you give, it cares that you give.
Mm-hmm.
And so I encourage everyone, a simple thing that I do in some of my keynotes that I encourage people to do is taking $100 a month and just allocating it to charity.
Mm-hmm.
And this came from the concept that my wife and I went out for dinner and we spent $100. We were there for 90 minutes and it bought us 90 minutes of happiness, right? 90 minutes for the $100 of food, but we haven't talked about that dinner since. On the other side, we took that same $100 and that same 90 minutes, and we went and bought a bunch of donuts for the homeless population. And we walked around town and gave the donuts to those people and listened to their stories and spent some time with them. It was the same 90 minutes and the same $100, but it bought us a memory that has lasted us over 8 months now. And so we do it every month now, is just using giving as a way to buy memories in this space. And so I just encourage people that are starting to give to do something like that, because once you start feeling how it feels to give, it's very addicting. And then you want to start doing it in everything you have. And too many times people complicate it. They try and figure out how to message and market and do it. Just go do something good, feel it. And from there, from your heart, that's where you'll start creating the initiatives and the impact and everything else along the other end and grow it from there. So I think that's just simplifying it.
I love that. And I think for anyone that is feeling blue or anyone that is feeling overwhelmed, the fastest way to snap out of it is to give and is to live in gratitude. So if you doubt it, I dare you to try it. So Randy, what would you like your legacy to be?
On a different note, because I think I shared a lot of what I want to do in capitalism. One of the things that I really love is that in real estate, I created this concept called $10 per door per month, and we donate that. And when I was doing the math, I was like, cool. In my friend group of circles, maybe let's just use a number of there's 2,000 doors in my direct inner circle, right? So that's $20,000 a month that can be donated to charity. That sounds pretty cool. And then I was like, well, that's my inner circle. What about like my acquaintance circle? And I'm like, oh, there's 10,000 doors kind of in the people that I could just call tomorrow and ask them. I'm like, cool, that's $100,000 a month in donations to charity, $1 million a year. And then I was like, that's just my close inner circle of friends that I could do. What if I started looking bigger and I started asking outside of my circle? And you start realizing how many rental doors there are out there. And I was like, man, if you start getting 100,000 rental doors donating $10 per door per month, that's $1 million a month. That's $12 million a year, but it's 100% passive. Nobody does anything different. Nobody has to sell any more products. Nobody has to do anything more. And we're donating $12 million a year. And I'd love to put that back into helping solve the low income housing space. I believe the government's designed it in a way that doesn't allow you to succeed in it. And I want to build it in a way that allows you to succeed in a way that, you know, you get a financial advisor, you get a counselor. And if you are in our program, we'll subsidize your rent as long as you're learning and growing. And that money that you get subsidized for your rent goes into a savings account for you so that you have to be forced to save. And now we're teaching people how to save, we're teaching them how to get educated, and we're teaching them how to actually cope with some of the stuff that they've gone through. I don't want to work with the people maybe that have mental illnesses and are not interested in getting back to normal population. I'm talking about maybe like the single moms that were abused, that ran away, that couldn't get past where they were, and now that they feel stuck forever. Well, they want help. They don't want to be there. They don't want their kid to feel like they're dependent. They actually want to do some cool stuff in the world. So that's what I want my legacy to be, is to start this $10 per door per month fund that people donate to. And then we go and just solve the low income housing problem in the world.
Oh, what a great legacy. And you are well on your way, my friend. Will you please give your website again for everybody to connect with you? And guys, follow him at Randy Molland. I know he's on LinkedIn because we worked on that together, but he's on all the other stuff too. So go ahead, give the website.
Yeah, you can find me. The easiest one is just GoBigToGiveBig.com.
Thank you for that. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. Randy, you were a fantastic guest. And guys, if you liked it, please subscribe to the YouTube channel or leave a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple. Thank you for listening. Go big to give big. I challenge you to do it now. Randy, it was a pleasure. Enjoy, everybody. Stay safe and go give. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. If you liked what you heard, please consider leaving a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would be ever so grateful. I hope you found it useful. Have a wonderful day.